Hey peeps, here's the notebook for Investigation 3, Week 2. How are Elodea and Paramecium similar and different? So we're kind of thinking about how our plant cells, and these things called paramecium, similar and different. And you probably don't know what a paramecium is yet, so let's find out what that is. All right, we're still learning about how every organism is made of one or more cells. We are still learning about how cells are living and do all the characteristics of life, and we are still learning about the parts of a cell and the job each part does. So the first thing you should do is watch these Paramecium videos. What is a Paramecium? Take a look. It's this strange single-celled organism. That is one cell, and that's an organism. You would never see this with the naked eye, which is probably why you haven't heard of it before. But they're pretty common in sort of wet soil or in lakes, freshwater, swampy areas. It's a pretty common little microbe. If you looked in your soil now and kind of create a little habitat out of your soil, add some dechlorinated water, take a pipette, look at it under the microscope, you'd probably find some Paramecium in your soil. So look at it. It's kind of weird. It kind of twists and turns as it moves. Twisty, turny. And it clearly has some structures inside there. So it definitely has some cell structures inside there. All right. So what do we need to answer? We need to talk about what do we see when we look at Paramecium under the microscope. From class today, students said it looks like a singular cell that is foot-shaped. Also, it twists and turns as it swims. Let's see what's happening in the contractile vacuole video. So this one's kind of funny. You have to look right. See this circle right here? You got to watch this circle, whatever the structure is. Keep your eye on that. Right here. Whoop. What did it do? It went from being this big, a little circle to a nothing. It sort of squeezes closed. So, what should we say? Something moving inside. There's a circle that pinches closed and shrinks. And we thought maybe it's expelling water. What is asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction is shown here in the video as you see a paramecium dividing. So a single-celled organism like this is not going to find a mate and do sexual reproduction. There's no mate involved. A little paramecium like this is going to get really, really big. And then once it's really big and it has a copy of all of its special little structures inside, it's going to pinch down the middle. The cell membrane will start pinching. And eventually, you're going to see that it's going to pinch so much that eventually those two paramecium will be two separate paramecium. Look, now there they are. They're going to be identical, exactly the same genetic information. Each one will have a nucleus and all the structures it needs. Okay, so that's called asexual reproduction. It's where you get really, really big and you have two copies of everything you need. And then your cell membrane starts to pinch, and then you separate. Now there's two. So they grow, and when they're really big, they divide and turn into two paramecium. Okay, that's sort of a definition for that question. What are the steps for a paramecium to asexually reproduce? Step 1, it makes a copy of its cell structure. Step 2, the membrane starts to pinch until it fully separates. What do we see happening in the food vacuole video? Oh, I keep opening that tab over and over again. Stained food vacuole formation. Well, it looks like it's surrounded by maybe red stained yeast again. So we've seen that before. So what I see happening is it's kind of like twisting around the food. And it also looks like it's taken some of the food in because look, it's kind of red inside. Whoa. So it's kind of, looks like it's kind of slurping food inside its little mouth structure. Ooh, pretty weird. And then it's all red inside. So it's obviously it's taken in some of those food vacuoles. Okay, so I said we think it took in some of the red dyed yeast because we could see some red inside the paramecium. All right, so down here, this is what the cell looks like. This is a more clear diagram because obviously when we're looking at it under a microscope, it's impossible to see all of these structures. But it's got a lot of the same structures as the plant cell that we looked at last week. Look, it's got the nucleus, which we call the meatball. It's got the endoplasmic reticulum, which we call the spaghetti. It's got this thing called the contractile vacuole. That's new. That's the thing that was squirting out water. It's got ribosomes. It's got something called a food vacuole, which I guess that's how it eats. It's got a lysosome, which is how it gets rid of waste. The mitochondria, again, the jelly bean, how it makes energy. The cytoplasm, the jelly-like liquid inside. And that's it. So we started filling this in. They give you this center column, and you have to fill in the cell structures. So the boundary, cell membrane. Stores water, expels water, contractile vacuole. Internal fluid, cytoplasm. Membranous structure assembles proteins and parts of the cell membrane. The ER, or the endoplasmic reticulum. Membrane that stores food, food vacuole. Organelle digests waste, lysosome. Mitochondria converts energy in food into usable energy for the cell, makes energy. Nucleus contains the cell's genetic material, determines the nature of cell structures and substances. It basically controls the cell. And ribosome, a structure that makes proteins. Okay, you can think about what you want to do for your analogy. In our class, we used a school analogy, and we came up with a bus for the cell membrane, a water fountain for the contractile vacuole, cytoplasm, we said halls and walls, endoplasmic reticulum, we said vice principal. I'll let you think of the rest. All right, cell versus organism. Can a single cell be a living organism? Well, we just saw one. We saw Paramecium. Paramecium is a single cell organism. Can a cell be living but not be an organism? So in other words, can there be a cell that's not an organism? Well, let's see. I have cells. Each one of my little cells is not an organism. So like if I could peel off a skin cell, here's a skin cell. That one little skin cell, that's not an organism. I'm the organism. So yes. For example, a skin cell is living, but not an organism. Because an organism would be like the whole free living thing. That's me. I am the whole organism. The skin cell would not be an organism. Is an Eladia leaf cell an organism? So last week when we looked at those little bricks, was each cell an organism? No. Eladia plant is what the organism is, the whole plant. Cell is just a cell. The cell is just a part of it. There's a small part of it, by the way. Is a paramecium cell an organism? Is that one cell? Is that the organism? Yes. It is a single-celled organism. Meaning the whole organism only has one cell. Is an LOD a leaf an organism? The leaf? No. The leaf is also just a part of the organism. Plant is the organism. The leaf can't live all by itself. It needs the whole plant. It needs the roots. Okay. All right, this is the final part you have to do today of paramecium evidence. So did we see evidence of it needing food, energy? Yes. You should fill in what evidence you saw for that. Did we see evidence of it needing water? Yes. Fill in. Did we see evidence of it growing? Actually, I would say yes, we did. And I'm going to just encourage you to fill it in so that I'm not giving you all the answers. I want you to do some thinking here. Did we see evidence of reproduction? We actually did. If you forget, look up at the top of the page or look at the videos again. Did we see evidence of it needing a suitable environment? Not exactly, but I will say that yes, and I'll help you out with this one. It lives in pond water or soil. You might already remember that I said that already, in which case you didn't need me to tell you. You're clever. Okay. Response to stimuli. Did we see it responding to anything around it? It was kind of spinning when it was in the food. Yes. It was spinning in the food. I'll help you with the really hard ones. Exchanges gases, breathes. I don't expect you to know that it does this. It actually does. It does what we do. It takes in oxygen. And releases carbon dioxide. It doesn't have a mouth, right? It just has to do that all through its cell membrane. This is why the cell membrane is so intelligent. It can do things like take in certain gases and release other gases. Eliminating waste. I'm going to challenge you to figure that one out. So try to fill that in on your own. Is it made of one or more cells? I'm going to challenge you to figure that one out too. Okay, so I think you can do those on your own, and then you're going to submit this on Schoology. Send me an email if you need any help. I check my email multiple times a day, so just let me know. All right, see you next week.